Hello BookTube and welcome to Weekly Reads. I'm doing an early weekly reads because the 4 Children of the Apocalypse are coming and I'm not entirely too sure how long we'll be having them. So if I sound a bit rushed, it's because I'm trying to film this video before they come. So I've had a pretty productive reading week, all nonfiction. And I'll address some fiction at the end. But first, the book I read the last 2 days of October, and that was In Search of the Phoenicians by Josephine Quinn. This book posits that the Phoenicians as an ethnic group, self-generated ethnic group, never existed. That the Phoenicians, for lack of a better term, thought of themselves in terms of their home city, of Tyre and Sidon and Byblos and Carthage, as well as their family lineage. And that when the Phoenicians were grouped together as Phoenicians, it was always within a Greek or Roman or imperial context. And I love this book. It was so fascinating and dense. It is quite academic, but I learned so much. Particularly the possibility of the foundations of Carthage, that Carthage was actually a dissident colony founded on a religious difference, namely the cult of Baal, Haman, and Tanit, who are the ones that had the child sacrifices. And how there was a rapprochement with the spread of the cult of Melkart, which also allowed for lack of a better term, the Phoenicians to engage with the Greeks, as Melkart has been identified with Heracles, the famous Greek hero god. So there is so much in this book I really enjoyed, particularly in the, again, for lack of a better term, Phoenician history. My one critique of the book is Quinn spends maybe a little too much time on Anglo-Irish Phoenicianism, which is a theory coming out of the Tudor period in which some intellectuals claim British ancestry with the Phoenicians, that the Phoenicians came millennia ago and sort of founded a colony in Britain. And I'm not entirely, I think that chapter gets, it's a little too long, and I think it doesn't quite fit, I don't think, with the rest of the book. But on the whole, I really did enjoy this, and quite looking forward to anything else by Quinn, as well as reading more history of Tyre and Sidon and Byblos and Carthage. Definitely Carthage. So that was pretty good. And then starting with November, I started my nonfiction November readings in earnest. I started with Imagined Life by James Trefil and Michael Summers. This book I read also as a complement to New Worlds November, the science fiction reading event that has launched this year. There are 4 prompts to New Worlds November, the first being Alien Life, which this book looks at. Trefil and Summers postulate what life can form in different environments that are more often than not inhospitable to humans and to life on Earth. I did like this book. I read it early last year, and I didn't remember much. I thought it might be useful in creating aliens as a science fiction writer, but I don't think I quite liked the book. And this second reading, I found myself annoyed. It starts with a rehash or a refresher of or on physics and biology that I thought could have been maybe shorter or jettisoned altogether because, I mean, one should assume a reader knows these things, but then again, you also have to take into account whether or not the assumption that the readers aren't aware, which can be frustrating for those who are. And some of the treatment of the sort of the suppositions I thought were not terribly good, and the humor I wasn't there for. So this was a disappointing read. The next two books, however, are not disappointing. I absolutely love these two. Wasp by Richard Jones and Squid by Martin Wallen. So these are two books in the Reaction Animal series. They pretty much look at the basics of the biology of the particular animal, how the animals interact with humans, how they are placed within human literature, culture, art, some form of industrial uses, misunderstandings, the history of their evolution, the history of their study, etc., etc. And so far, I've read three, and all three have been absolutely wonderful. Wasp obviously looks at the much maligned cousin to the bee, and this book was phenomenal. I loved it. Particularly Jones's defense of the wasp. It is just spectacular. But I think of the three I've read Scorpion, Wasp, and Squid. I think Squid is my favorite. Although going in, I was afraid the chapters would be too long. They're about 5 chapters, all about 40-ish pages. But boy, oh, this was phenomenal. The natural history of the squids, I loved. The history of the modern study of squids, I really enjoyed, and I absolutely loved the last 3 chapters. The one that looks at kind of like a different understanding of squid and of squid in human culture. And the last chapter, Anxiety, which is a brilliant piece of literary criticism that looks at the squid, what role squid play in different works of literature, from Alfred Lord Tennyson's Kraken to Moby Dick to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea to Kraken by China Miéville. This book was just phenomenal. I loved every moment with it. And I am absolutely looking forward to adding more of the Reaction Animal series to my collection at some point. So that's what I read. What I will be reading tonight and over this weekend will be my New Worlds November reading, in which participants and I am a co-host. We read science fiction short stories. My goal for this November was to read nonfiction during the work week, and then the science fiction short stories during the weekend. And if I have some extra time, which I got this week, I will extend my science fiction short story reading into Friday or the last 2 days of November, which is what I'm also planning on doing. So over the course of November, I will be reading science fiction short stories from the Big Book of Science Fiction, edited by the Vandermeers. I'm quite looking forward to it, although also some trepidation. I have not had much luck with fiction the past few months, really 2 years, but hopefully I will quite enjoy this. And I am absolutely looking forward to it, although also some trepidation. I have not had much luck with fiction the past few months, really 2 years, but hopefully I will quite enjoy this. And I am absolutely looking forward to it, although also some trepidation. I have not had much luck with fiction the past few months, really 2 years, but hopefully I will quite enjoy this. and I will report back obviously next week. So, well, let me talk about the nonfiction I'll be reading next week, and then I'll do some structural stuff. Um, so, on Monday, I will be starting The Brilliant Abyss by Helen. This is a look at the study of the deep oceans. And Wild Sea, A History of the Southern Ocean by Joy McCann. This is a history of the Southern Ocean that sort of surrounds Antarctica, which I read last year and really enjoyed. And hopefully I will love it even more this time. So going forward with weekly reads, I will start every weekly reads video with a New Worlds November recap, since ordinarily my weekend reading comes first chronologically. So I'll start with New Worlds November, even if there is like a Friday free and I'll have read some New Worlds November before weekly reads. I will bundle it all together at the beginning with New Worlds November, and then I'll move on to Nonfiction November as the last group of books read, and I will then proceed to the next nonfiction, because obviously I'm only going to be reading one work of fiction over the month, unless I manage to finish big book of science fiction before then. But anyway, and I think the December 1st, I will do a New Worlds November wrap-up, where I try to maybe go more in depth, or just a general wrap-up of my experiences, and we'll see how that goes. Anything else? I don't think there's much else to talk about. I did have my doctor's appointment yesterday. It went pretty good. I go back in a month, but that'll be on a Friday, so it shouldn't affect a video making, or that weekly reads, because I'll do it in the evening. So next week's video I don't know if like how we'll be watching The Four Children of the Apocalypse, or what my brother's plan is for moving. So things could work out, or, well, I know Tuesday I won't be making any videos because my aunts are coming to visit my mom for her birthday. So I will be doing the Y tag on Monday, and as far as watching the kids, I don't know, so we'll see. I might make some videos earlier in the morning before I start work, in which case I'll go ahead and put them up earlier than I usually do, or I might even film during, like, when I do my weekly read. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's not too much of a disruption. I do really enjoy making these videos, although sometimes they can be a pain in the rear end. But anyway, we shall see. So anyway, BookTube, thank you. Have a great evening, weekend, and I will see you sometime next week. Thank you, BookTube, and stay safe.